about plastic pollution probably like most of you did, from my community, from the Plastic Pollution Coalition, and from reading and educating myself. But once I learned about it, it was hard to go back to the way I lived before. I started noticing around me every plastic cup, every plastic straw, every plastic lid. And I wanted to talk to others and share with them what I knew about the problem. Plastic pollution is not a problem like global climate change, a problem surrounded with much debate, yet something intangible that you can't see. It's not like carbon emissions in the atmosphere. It's visible, we can see it around us, and it's caused by daily choices that we make. Yet, for some reason, people choose not to do anything about it. People choose not to participate in the solutions. Today, in the face of science that tells us how bad plastic is for us, that tells us about the dangers of toxins leaching out of them, people continue to drink from plastic bottled water. People continue to use single-use and disposable plastics. Why is it then that when people know that these bottles, straws, cups, and utensils last forever and harm them, they continue to use them? They continue to use them regardless. There's no connection with people between the science and taking action, and there is a huge indifference to the consequences of their actions. In our country, in our community, indifference is a growing reality with the people around us. The indifference of the passionate is not the absence of zeal, but a lack of concern for others that don't share their values, a lack of desire to teach others. And so I became interested in what motivates people to action, in what gets people to really care, what breaks through the indifference. In November of 2010, I was invited to speak at the TEDx Plastic Pollution Coalition conference, organized by the Plastic Pollution Coalition and dedicated to the global plastic pollution crisis. There, as I listened to the scientists, environmentalists, marine biologists, and other experts talk about plastic pollution, I realized that it would take more than facts to get people to act. It would take a connection to not only the mind, but also to the heart. So how do we touch people so profoundly that they radically change their behavior patterns? I found two answers: art and the emotional response that it generates, and working with young people. Here's how Chris Jordan, the American photographer, has chosen to illustrate our consumerist habits. He uses large-scale images that depict the massive volumes of plastic pollution. This photo shows 1 million paper cups, the amount that are used every 6 hours on United States Airlines. This image is made with 400,000 bottle caps. That's the amount of plastic bottled drinks that consumers in the United States use every minute. And this is another picture by Chris Jordan of a baby albatross chick in the Midway Islands. This picture, the bird hasn't been at all changed from how it was found on the beach. This is Lila Rue, both a dancer and an artist, whose art is focused on plastic pollution. And this is the art of Deanna Cohen, an artist who's chosen to work with plastic and make images of beauty from it. It is absolutely essential, though, that the topic of plastic pollution reaches both hearts and minds. Art has been an expression of humanity's emotion for as long as we've existed. But another way that stands out as the most effective, and yet also one of the most overlooked, is involving youth as advocates against plastic pollution. Young people are impactful for a number of reasons, maybe most notably because we are the future. What affects the future state of the world more than anything else are the choices the people of my generation, of our generation, make. And it is critical that youth advocates are the ones to relay the message to other youth. So often, attempts by adults to communicate to us in a way that they believe will reach us just comes across as really fake and phony. So instead of spending time and effort trying to market to us and find the best ways to do that, we can avoid the problem entirely by just involving us from the very beginning. I have a top 3 do's and don'ts to adults that are speaking to people of my generation. First, don't try to be us. Don't try to use words we use. Don't try to be like one of us. It just looks really fake. I'm sure all of you know. Do just be yourself. Tell us a story. Speak with passion, and your passion will communicate to us. Don't talk down to us. What we don't know, we'll ask. But do present your material in a way that isn't overly technical. We're not experts, like some of you may. And don't be overdramatic. Yes, plastic pollution is a big problem, but the world isn't going to end tomorrow. Do talk to us seriously about the problem. Give us the straight facts, without distortion. Now, of course, there are videos by people like Tim Minchin that are good, and they're aimed at youth, and they use things like music to try and communicate their message, but some of them do go a little over the top. We don't need people riding around in shopping carts playing accordion to get the message across to us. Groups like the Al Goleta Research Foundation, that were involved in the first discovering the garbage patch, are also making big strides towards youth leadership, with events like their Plastic Pollution Youth Summit that I attended with my team last March. There we met with groups from all over the world, Colombia, Ghana, Kenya, the UK, and we got to see what they were doing for plastic pollution in their communities and how the problem related to them specifically. Speaking to youth and getting youth involved is critically important to the future of both the movement against plastic pollution and to the future of our environment and the world. Because inspiring youth is, with time, changing the world. Gracias.
Vamos a abrir el escenario a unas preguntas y respuestas.
We know more about the moon than the ocean depths, and it's sad we're living in this planet. 50, 40 years ago, there was a tendency of me generation. I want to be president, I want to be astronaut. Now we are in a generation of we, but that includes the ability to listen to each other. It's not the lack of money or raw materials, fresh air, fresh water. It's a really ability to listen to each other. And the main problem with the plastic is we don't have the attitude to recycle everything, organic waste, even simple things like organic, non-organic. People don't do it at homes. I've been trying to deal with mothers and small kids. I have only success with these small kids. Well, basically, I just want to, I appreciate you don't want to satanize plastic. I would like to see you try to emphasize more on the people's will and consciousness to recycle everything. There's a really big need for people to work here, even in the United States. And ironically, they send stuff to China to recycle over there, having, I don't know how many million people without work. So thank you.
I think what we need really is to make a lifestyle without plastic fun and make it the norm, not make it an exception. If you look at our website, you will see there are a lot of famous musicians, artists, public figures who are members. And when a big musician gets on stage and waves a stainless steel bubble and says, you should do this, thousands of people respond, and they do that. So I think we have several actors and musicians that are interested in coming to Central America. There is a musician in Nicaragua called Katia Cardinal who just joined the coalition and who is going to do this with us. I would encourage you to reach out to your people who are the kind of the trendsetters, the musicians, the artists, the movie stars, and work with them and explain to them why this is important for your country, and knowing that they set the tone in many ways, get them involved.
Primero, yo creo que el plástico lo que hay que hacer es reducir su uso. Segundo, reciclar. Tercero, educar a toda la gente, incluyéndonos, ¿ya? Cómo hacer uso consciente del plástico, porque el no usar plástico es imposible. La computadora tiene plásticos, el celular tiene plástico, el proyector tiene plástico, el banner es de plástico, mi camisa tiene botones de plástico. Entonces, lo único es hacer uso consciente y saber cómo reutilizar.
We actually commercialize biodegradable products, substitute to plastic. It's based on renewable resources and natural resources. I just wanted to see what your take was on oxo-degradable plastics, because it's been very difficult for us to educate people to make them understand that oxo-degradable plastic only disintegrates but never integrates to microorganisms. And so I just wanted to see your take on that and maybe educate people on that.
We heard a lot of oxo biodegradable and biodegradable plastics in Central America. And what I want to share with you is how the United States recycling facilities look at it right now. Number one, the fact that it comes and becomes smaller particles is one we need to communicate. That doesn't make it a biomaterial. There is nothing bio about plastic. Plastic is not natural. There is nothing life associated with life, number one. Number two, in the United States, there are a number of biodegradable plastics that are being introduced right now. And the chemicals that they leach during recycling are totally different from the normal recycling cycle. It is so bad that recyclers right now refuse to take them. You need a special recycling facility for biodegradable plastics and a special infrastructure which doesn't exist. So they're more trouble right now than we know how to handle. Again, as I said, I do believe that the future belongs to biodegradable plastics. There are some efforts to make biodegradable plastic out of algae, which is very interesting, some out of mushroom. These are still to be developed. We need to know more about it.
Personalmente estoy buscando el bioplástico que al final del uso yo puedo mezclarlo en mi smoothie y tomarlo. Si tenés un producto excelente, vamos a hablar.
Plastic bags, and then in order to building houses, as long as I know, on Japan there are people working with ecological bricks, but they are melting the plastic and then they are constructing houses with real plastic bricks. So
yes, a very common machine technology that's now being productized is turning plastic bags and certain plastic containers into low-grade oil product that you can use for burning and other things. I have asked several of the inventors to tell me what is the entire carbon footprint of the process, energy, pollution. Despite our numerous requests, nobody have answered. I don't know how to translate the term snake oil in Spanish, but in the middle centuries, this was something that a lot of magicians went around and sold in small bottles to people who believed that it would resolve all of their problems. It is nice for us to be optimistic that somebody is working on these solutions, but be careful not to think that it will solve all of our problems.
At the conference I went to in March that I spoke about, organized by the Alcalida Foundation, there was a group there from Colombia that was using plastic bottles filled with just other plastic garbage, and they were using that to build housing. And that's, I mean, in my opinion, that's a really good way to be reusing plastic, because you're taking the garbage that would otherwise be ending up in the ocean or being incinerated in China, and you're using it as plastic should be used to make something that'll last a long time.
Soy arquitecto y tengo un problema un poco con eso en un país como este que es de altas tendencias sísmicas. Hay que tener mucho cuidado, mucho ojo. Te estás metiendo 1000 años de plástico adentro de las paredes que van a estar emanando gases tóxicos en partículas muy leves que pueden ser acumulativas. O sea, hay mucha investigación científica que hay que documentar.
La institución que auspició esta convocatoria, que fue grande, enorme, hará lo posible por publicar, ya sea de forma por la prensa, folletos o como sea, porque es un tema muy trascendente. Queremos saber qué más podemos informarnos y a felicitar a ustedes que trajeron un tema a Guatemala bellísimo. Un aplauso muy grande para estas cosas.
Gracias por su aporte. Seguro mucho de eso se está publicando. Aquí hay información en G22, que es la organización que yo represento también. Tenemos mucha información local. El futuro está en compartir, en la inteligencia y en la moderación. Y es exactamente lo que Savia y G22 representamos. Hay que compartir la información para limitar la barrera del conocimiento. El conocimiento siempre gobernará sobre la ignorancia. y es muy importante saber las cosas desde varios puntos de vista.
But also, please remember there is something you can do today. All of us, you can go home and refuse to buy a plastic bottle. You can refuse to use a straw. You can refuse to use a plastic plate. And you can think twice before you buy a plastic product, knowing that this product will outlive us and our children and our generations. And then you can share this with your friends and your family. Every one of us can do something today.
Quería mencionar que tenemos casi 2 semanas viajando juntos entre 3 países y hemos evitado el plástico como el 95% del tiempo. Pedimos bebidas en vidrio reusable, sin pajilla. Pues a veces traen con pajilla y decimos que no, gracias, y a veces tienen que tirar la pajilla. Pero generalmente, 90-95% de todo este viaje hemos evitado el uso de plástico desechable de un solo uso. Entonces, se puede hacerlo con español más o menos, o a veces sin español, se puede.
Congratulations for your excellent presentation. I just want to make a comment, and the comment is that for global problems, the solutions come locally. It's in our decision, and we have extremely beautiful rivers that we are losing them because of the plastic and all the contamination. And well, I don't believe very much in the governments, but yes, in the power of people. So it's the community, the one that the society should start in their own place to make the change. Thank you very much.
Pues pienso que fue muy interesante y muy buena, pues toda la información que nos dieron, porque tenemos que informarnos para poder actuar. Porque, o sea, no solo tiene que quedar en palabras, sino también empezar a buscar soluciones.
A mí me pareció muy buena la conferencia, ya que presentaron varios hechos reales de lo que está haciendo el plástico en nuestro medio ambiente. Está dañando bastante y creo que el plástico no es fundamental para nuestra vida. O sea, tampoco nos moriríamos sin él.
Pues es un placer regresar a Guatemala después de 24 años y ver tantas personas involucradas en esta campaña de pues, resolver el problema del plástico. Y durante los últimos 24 años hemos visto pues, la cantidad de plástico en las playas, en los ríos, en las tortugas, en nuestros cuerpos, ha incrementado exponencialmente. Y ya es tiempo de decir que no queremos más. Buscar las soluciones como las botellas reusables que ya existen y ya solamente hay que pedirlos y sin pajilla, no tener que usar el plástico todos los días, es muy posible evitarlo y tratar de rescatar nuestro planeta de esta plaga.
Well, I think the best thing that you can do to fight the plastic pollution is source reduction, and that means stopping use of plastic bottles and use of plastic bags and things like that. Not only does using those have an impact on the environment, like you've heard here, it also has a big impact on human health. So the best thing we can do is to just look for alternatives. Things like glass is a great alternative. Something we've seen here in Central America that we don't really have in the United States at all is the whole infrastructure for using reusable glass bottles and refillable glass bottles. And that's something that we think is just great, and we wish that we could bring back to the United States with us. My first time in all of Central America, my first time in Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Guatemala. I think it's beautiful, and I think that you guys are, like, your reusable bottles, that's just great, and the people are so friendly, and you have such a beautiful country.
You know, the issue of plastic pollution is global, but each and every community and individual can make a difference. They can reduce their use of plastic, they can reduce their exposure to plastic, and each step that you take to do that will reduce the amount of toxins that you're exposed to, and that will reduce the possible impact on your health. So the more plastic we use, the more toxins that are leached into our food and our bodies, the higher the risk of health implications. And so simply by taking simple steps to limit your use and exposure to plastics, you can make a difference not only for your environment but for your personal health.
Plastic pollution is one of the greatest environmental problems facing the planet today. It is also the cross-section of environmental degradation, environmental justice, and corporate responsibility, as well as public health. It affects everyone. It affects people of all generations, people of different countries. It's a global, massive, and urgent problem. But thankfully, there are good news. We can begin by making changes today. And our message to the people of Guatemala is, you can begin today by refusing single-use and disposable plastics and thinking carefully about every plastic purchase you make. Every plastic purchase will live longer than any of us on this planet for thousands of years behind. So begin today, refuse single-use and disposable plastics, tell your friends, tell your family, and let's start a wave. And thank you for having us in this beautiful country.